All right, welcome to The Explainer. You know, there are some stories from history we think we know inside and out. Today, we're diving into a source that says one of the most famous ones, well, it isn't at all what we've been told. I'm talking about Jesus and the money changers in the temple.
So we all have this image in our heads, right? Jesus, filled with righteous anger, flipping tables. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it wasn't about anger at all? The source we're looking at today asks a pretty radical question. What if this was actually a political firing?
So yeah, the familiar story is all about a holy place being turned into a marketplace. But the text we're digging into, it offers up a totally different take, one that's got way more to do with politics and, you guessed it, money.
And here's the core of the argument from this source. This was no emotional outburst, not at all. It was a cold, calculated political move, a direct challenge to the entire state-sanctioned system of tribute and taxes.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to ask a basic question first. Who exactly were these so-called money changers?
Well, here's the thing. They weren't just some random guys selling trinkets. No, according to this text, they were official government employees, porters and gatekeepers who held really profitable public offices inside the Judean government's treasury.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. If you look at the original Greek word, kouloubistes, it doesn't just mean money changer. It actually refers to a small coin, or a clipped amount. It's basically a hint baked right into the language that their job was all about taking a commission, a cut from the tribute.
So you see, this wasn't just some casual shopping going on. This was an official system built on commissions and tribute. But how did it actually work? And you know, what made it so corrupt in the first place?
The source material lays out this stark difference. On one hand, you had what it calls God's ordained system, people giving freely, from the heart. But on the other hand, you had this corrupted system which was all about a mandatory tribute. And get this, if you didn't pay up, they could legally come after you and take your stuff. And we are not talking about small amounts of money here. The scale of this operation was just huge. The tribute in a single month could be more than 7.6 million denarii. Out of that, the money changers charged their commission, the silver mia. Their total take, just from this one event, could hit an incredible 950,000 denarii.
So what does that even mean? Well, to put it into today's terms, their cut was worth over $9 million. Yeah, $9 million. This was absolutely not small change. It was a massive pipeline of wealth flowing straight from the pockets of ordinary people to these government officials.
Okay, so now that we have all that in our back pocket, let's go back to that moment in the temple. If these guys were government officials running a multi-million-dollar operation, what was Jesus really doing?
Well, the source points way back in history, to 1 Chronicles, to make its case. It says that these porters, these gatekeepers, were part of an official government office, an office that was historically created and managed by the king. We're talking all the way back to the time of David and Samuel. And here is the absolute crux of the argument. If you see Jesus as the rightful king, then everything changes. His actions in the temple, they're totally reframed. This isn't some random citizen protesting. This is the head of state, the executive, exercising his authority over a part of his own government.
He was firing them, plain and simple. The source argues that when he laid a whip on their shoulders, it wasn't just some random act of violence. It was actually a traditional way for a king to fire corrupt employees. He was, quite literally, cleaning house.
Now, when you look at it through that lens, it suddenly provides a very powerful and very direct motive for what happened next, just a few days later. Just think about it for a second. This wasn't just an inconvenience. This was a direct shot at the ruling class, at their power, and at their bottom line. By firing these guys, Jesus wasn't just messing up a marketplace. He was taking a sledgehammer to a core part of their financial machine. So the takeaway from this source is pretty blunt. This single act created a powerful, urgent, political, and financial reason for the people in charge to get rid of this new king who was threatening their entire system. So that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? Does seeing this famous story as a political act, as a firing, change what it means for you? It's definitely a compelling way to look at it, shifting the whole focus from religious purity to pure politics. I'd love to know what you think, so drop your thoughts in the comments.
And hey, if you enjoy explainers like this one that kind of challenge the way you see things, do us a favor and hit that like button, subscribe for more, and maybe share this with someone you know who'd find it just as interesting. Thanks so much for watching.